This is the all-new SRAM Eagle transmission. Wireless electronic access shifting like you might expect, but it's quite the departure from the previous Eagle. Completely new direct mount, 0 adjustment screws, and you can shift under full power. They're the headlines, but there's much more to it than that. SRAM started out on their mission to kill the front neck 11 years ago. And now with this new Eagle transmission, they're aiming to make shifting more reliable by removing over 200 failure points when it comes to how you install it, set it up, or even impacts with the trail. Also a big one is now shifting under full power. That could change the way that racers and riders shift. No more backing off the power to get a clean shift or to preserve the chain. In fact, SRAM say this shifts better with more power. All right, let's talk about how this thing is different, and quite clearly the construction of the rear derailleur. Now this hadn't really changed for years and years. We had the mech hanger that was designed to bend or break in an incident and save your expensive rear derailleur from getting broken. Now SRAM introduced the UDH, the Universal Derailleur Hanger, and the manufacturers got on board to try and make that standard. Over 210 bikes and counting use that UDH. Now was that the SRAM master stroke? Because now they use that interface basically to get rid of that UDH and mount this direct mount derailleur too. Actually, the way the derailleur mounts to the bike is integral to how it works. So it now clamps around the rear of the frame and the axle goes through the derailleur. So now there's 0 tolerance between the frame, the cassette and that derailleur. They can get rid of the B tension screw and the high and low limits. It's almost impossible for the user to set this up wrong. Yes, I can already hear the screams. That was a cheap piece of metal designed to save your rear derailleur. But now it does feel solid. It's part of the back of the bike, clamped around the frame, and that's all going through it. But also these rear derailleurs are now rebuildable. So the shrouds, the cage and the skid plates, all replaceable. It's got that old overload clutch that's going to save it as well. It even has a magic wheel. So if a stick goes in there, actually the teeth will still spin even though that jockey wheel is locked. But how does it work? Why don't you need any screw adjustments? Well, it's different to any other transmission you've ever set up, but it's a simple process. Pair the controller and derailleur, get the correct chain length for the chainstay length of your bike, shift the derailleur into the setup gear, either 6 or 7, mount the derailleur and rear wheel snug, then back off 1 rotation. Make sure the setup key is in either A or B depending on your bike. Torque the derailleur, torque the rear wheel, hey presto, you're ready to go. SRAM Eagle was split by models according to the genre of riding. XX for cross country, XO1 for trail and enduro, and that's changed. All have the 1052 cassette size. XX is now the top tier, the best material. But now there's an XX SL option for cross country with a hollow pin chain with cutout side plates. The top 3 rings on the cassette are alloy, lightweight. XX has more steel in the cassette for longevity and an integrated bash guard on the cranks. XO is now the tier below with different materials. There are 3 cranksets, XX XL, the lightest of course for cross country, with all new hollow core carbon construction, XX carbon fibre with foam core with removable bash guards, 1 or 2. XO is aluminium. SRAM say it's their most advanced crankset they've ever made, and just look at it. All power meter ready if you want the riding data. Also available an XX and XO e-bike cranksets. In fact, most of the drivetrains are all e-bike compatible, except for things like the super light hollow pin SL chain. Okay, aside from the difference in the construction of the rear derailleur, which is obvious, there's a less obvious but arguably equally as important difference with the new Eagle transmission, and that is the cassette mapping. There is a new T-type chain and cassette on here, and this cassette has also now got this full X-sync design. So there are designated ramps and spots for the chain to move around on this. So it might not shift quite as quick as the older Eagle, but now it'll shift in the exact spot. And more power now means the chain's going to shift better up or down that ramp. You don't need to use the SRAM Access app, but you can if you want. It's going to help you with setup prompts for installation. You can choose what your buttons are doing, find your connected components, track your rides and your power meter if you have one, give you ride diagnostics, nerdy stats like how many times you've changed gear on that ride. There's new shifters, or should I call them controllers? These are the pod controllers, available with an infinity clamp or this bridge clamp that I'm using, where it attaches to your brake lever. They're super adjustable to get them in the right position. You can even set these up using the SRAM AXS app to decide what each button is doing. I've got the same one for my post as well. These are the ultimate version of the pod controller, where you can change the pads for a different feel with either a concave or a convex profile. As well as the Eagle transmission, you may have noticed these brand new SRAM code stealth brakes on my bike with a hose coming out of the lever really close to the bar, with the wireless gears and post as well. It's a super clean cockpit setup on this bike now. There's our first look at the new SRAM Eagle transmission. I think SRAM kill it with the aesthetics. Every time they bring something out, it looks futuristic. I know the mech looks completely different, but now other mechs look a bit old-fashioned to me. Let me know what you think. What about how does it feel on the trail? Well, it's really quiet. There's no noise from that rear derailleur moving or slapping around, no chain slap at all. And even the way it shifts, you hear the electronic motor. But now it's it is quieter. Sometimes it's completely silent, and it does come down to that cassette mapping. Occasionally there'll be a slight delay, maybe like a 16th rotation of the cranks, but often it's completely instant, and sometimes it's completely silent as well. So those ramps up and down, you know, you click that controller and it just shifts. You don't need to back off the power, and that is different. Let me know what you think down below. Is this a game changer? We shall see.